Hello, this is Storybooks channel. New videos are posted every day. Subscribe and click the bell.
I wish you never to know trouble and sorrow. Maria cried too. The bride's aunt, thank you, smiled Molly. I'm glad that I finally got out of my aunt's care. She didn't like her not young husband. In fact, she was a little afraid of Robert. He was rude and irascible, but he didn't show any aggression to the young bride. Rather, on the contrary, treated her reverently, as if to a porcelain doll, which could at any moment fall and break. The girl at first did not want to hear about Robert's feelings. 2 years ago, she came to work in his small firm, the only one in a provincial town. The man immediately drew attention to the beautiful young employee, and literally from the first day did not give her a pass. At some point, Molly even wanted to quit, although she knew that it is unlikely to find a good job in her specialty elsewhere. And then an aunt intervened, who had been raising Molly since she was 8 years old. At one time, Maria formalized guardianship over her niece. The girl's parents led a dissolute lifestyle. First, her mother ran away from the city, leaving the girl to her alcoholic father, who was soon imprisoned for life for a serious crime. Molly wanted to take her to an orphanage, but in the fate of the girl intervened a native aunt. On the father's side, Maria was not at all guided by kinship feelings for Molly. She was motivated by self-interest. Molly was left with her father's apartment, which the aunt stole. The woman put the apartment in order and safely rented for many years, and after she reached adulthood, persuaded her to sell the apartment and invest the money in the construction of a common house. We are one big and friendly family. We will sell your apartment, start building a spacious house, and then sell ours. And with the proceeds, we will leave our new house with beautiful furniture and buy a car. Aunt Maria persuaded me. By virtue of her young age and without the character of achievement, agreed to the apartment. It was quickly sold, but the construction of the house has not started. We have to wait a little, the aunt said. The situation in the country is unstable right now. We will wait for better times and build a house. Thus, the dwelling was left not only without an apartment, but also without a propiska. The aunt categorically refused to register her niece, arguing that she would have to pay even more money for utilities. Having learned that the director of the company where Molly works shows a lot of attention to her, Maria, as off the chain, snapped day and night, pestered her niece with her moralizing. She tried to reason the girl, explaining that such a chance can fall only once in a lifetime. Just try to quit such a good job. I'll throw you out on the street, the woman once threatened. I've spent 12 years raising you, feeding you, clothing you. Where's the gratitude? Realizing that it is better to live a quiet life with an unloved but wealthy man than to endure the endless scandals of Aunt Maria, Molly was forced to agree to marry Robert. Employees discouraged the girl, asking her not to do anything stupid, because their chief had terrible rumors. People said that Robert had already had 2 wives, that he was a tyrant and a pervert. Both of the man's previous wives had gone to a madhouse. It was as if after what had happened, the man had sold everything and moved to live in their small town. Molly realized that this was just another gossip and fiction of the locals, who often liked to invent some creepy story about a new person who came to live in their provincial town. Thank you all for your wishes and congratulations. You can have fun until morning, and it's time for me and my young wife to rest, Robert announced, rising from the table. Shall we stay a little longer? Shyly asked the victorious girl. It's so much fun here. I don't want our party to end so quickly. Don't worry, my dear. I'll make you such a holiday at home that you'll remember for the rest of your life, laughed the man. Let's go to the car. Robert insistently hugged the girl and almost forcefully led her outside. Only now Molly realized that she had done something stupid. She wasn't ready for a family relationship with this strange man. She wanted to turn around and run back to her house. She didn't have a home, though, and her aunt was unlikely to let her in. Come in, don't be shy. You are the mistress of this house now, Robert said, showing her the spacious living room. This is where we will receive guests. In that far room we'll make a nursery in time. And over there is our bedroom. The man pointed to a room at the end of the hallway. Go take a bath. Then I'll show you our family nest." Molly blushed and lowered her head. But there was nothing to do. Robert was her husband, and she was obliged to fulfill her marital duty. The girl stood in the shower stall for a long time under the cool stream of water. She does not know how much time had passed, but an insistent knock on the door quickly brought her back to reality. "I'm on my way," Molly shouted. "Turn the water off faster." "I'm tired of waiting," Robert shouted irritably. At that moment, Molly wanted to fall through the ground. She had never felt such shame in her life. Coming out of the bath, she saw her husband at the door. "Darling, let's go quickly. I have everything ready," smiled the man. Molly entered the room and lost speech from surprise and fear. The room had a muted basement light. There was no furniture in it at all except for a huge metal bed. Looking into the family bed, the girl turned pale. The whole bed was covered in weighty chains, and handcuffs lay in the middle. "What is this?" Stammering, the girl asked, realizing that she had fallen into the clutches of a mentally ill man. "You'll like my prankster," Robert said darkly, picking up a leather whip from the floor. "No, you're crazy," shouted the girl, holding out from the room. "Halt," roared the man, rushing to catch up with his young spouse. Molly jumped outside in just slippers and a terry cloth robe, deftly cut through the high fence, and ran without a backward glance to wherever she was going. She wanted to get home quickly, to complain to her aunt about what had happened to her. She reached Maria Genadievna's house far past midnight. Molly had to walk through yards and alleys. The passers-by looked away from the girl in the white coat, and some laughed openly, pointing their fingers at her. Seeing Robert's cars near her aunt's yard, Molly huddled near a neighbor's tree. "Don't worry, Robert. As soon as she shows up, I'll call you right away. Those bastards. Who'd have thought? She'll come back to you anyway. I won't even let her on my doorstep. The woman has ruined the whole neighborhood. No, dear Maria. Please let Molly in and call me. So she can't hear you. I'll be right over. I love my wife very much. She's too young to realize her happiness." Robert said calmly. "As you wish," said the woman, softened his tone. "Here, so to speak, a little financial help." "Always ready to help dear relatives," said Robert, counting the bills. "Thank you, Robert. You spoil me." Maria smiled, tucking the money into his pocket. Molly sighed heavily, realizing that she could not go to her aunt. Tears came to her eyes. She didn't think that her own person would sell her out so easily in utter hopelessness and despair. She found her way around the nighttime city. She didn't care what passers-by thought when they looked at her, nor did she see any passers-by. The night streets were completely empty, and the lights in the windows had long since gone out. She looked longingly at the dark windows of the houses. Happy people, she thought bitterly. They have a roof over their heads, and even that has been taken away from me. Feverishly wondering what she should do next, the girl reached the railroad station. Molly wanted to get far away from this city, but as without documents, money, and slippers and a robe, where could she go in such a form? Sitting down on a bench, the girl began to wait for something. She didn't know anything herself. Soon dawn was running behind the three. Molly woke up from her bitter thoughts when she heard a noise behind her. Seeing a young woman who was sweeping the street, rejoiced. "Excuse me," said the girl softly, approaching the janitor. "I found myself in a difficult position." "Do you think it's easy for me?" smirked the woman, resting on the girl with a heavy breath. "I can't help you. I'm not asking for money. Maybe you could lend me some clothes," Molly asked. "She's gone." The woman was indignant. "You think I have a trunk full of clothes at home and nothing to wear? Get out of here, or I'll call the police." Molly stepped away from the woman, realizing that she was unlikely to help. When she heard the signal of the approaching train, she went to the platform. Going into an empty carriage, sat at the window. The girl, with indifference, spent a look, flashed in the window native town. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew that she would hardly ever return to this town. "Look out, the doors are closing." She heard Molly through her sleep and opened her eyes. The carriage was already filled with hundreds of passengers. None of them paid attention to the girl. Everyone was busy with their own worries. School years came to mind. All the class came to this monastery on an excursion. Then the creative life of the nuns seemed to her a dull and boring existence. She did not understand how she could bury herself alive in the walls of a sullen monastery. A salutary thought instantly came into her head. She was now very jealous of the quiet, safe life that reigned in the monastery. When she saw the train approaching the station, she rushed to the exit. Molly had been walking for an hour or two through the forest. She was terribly thirsty. It was very damp and cold. With increasing frequency, clouds overhead said that it would soon start to rain. The strength was leaving the girl. At some point, she thought she was lost. But when she saw a high fence and the gap of huge trees, she was glad. Approaching the iron gate, Molly pressed the bell button. Behind the gate, there was complete silence. It seemed that there was absolutely no one there. Only after about 10 minutes, heavy footsteps were heard. "What do you want?" asked a sullen old woman. She opened the heavy wicket. "Please help me." In desperation, cried Molly, throwing herself on her knees in front of the woman. "Come in," the nun said in a rough voice, looking at the girl with interest. "How are you running from whom?" asked Nancy. A woman of no particular age was looking at Molly with an inquisitive gaze. She tried to look into her soul to understand who stood before her. The girl wanted to start a story about her hard life, about her misfortunes, but the lump in her throat prevented her from uttering a single sound. Shuddered Molly silently cried, "Okay, I see, you need to rest. Afterwards we will talk calmly," said Nancy, instructing the assistant to take the girl away. Mother Nancy led Molly to the far cell, which was behind a similar courtyard. She pointed to the door to the shower room and threw some clothes on the narrow bed. I'll tell them to bring you some soup. By evening you can rest. You'll be called for evening prayers," the woman said gruffly. Molly was not used to being in a closed space among gray walls. The atmosphere in the monastery was very depressing. Everyone around was silent and sullen, as if wearing some kind of mourning. I did not like this attitude and way of life. After all, she is a cheerful person. But in this situation, this monastery was her saving grace. The girl did not want to return to the worldly life under any pretext. There was too much cruelty and injustice there. "What do you want to do next, Molly?" asked the abbess, listening carefully to the girl. "I understood correctly that you have no relatives or close friends. There is only one aunt, and she turned out to be a traitor. It is scary to imagine what some people are capable of for the sake of money," Molly said sadly. "Well, stay with us for now," agreed Nancy. "I want to become a nun. I have nothing to do in the world," the girl said confidently. "Wait," with that the woman finally grinned. "Not everything is as quick and easy as you think." 3 months had passed since Molly's escape. The girl had gotten used to the unusual way of life. She has become a novice, and there is an abbess attached to the convent. Nancy said it was too early to think about tonsure. It is not a game. Before you take such an important step, you should think very carefully. You're a young and very beautiful girl. Moreover, you came to us not out of love for the Most High, but out of despair. We are not persecuting you. You are a good man. Live at the monastery. And time will sort things out," said the wise woman. Molly's duties included cleaning the refectory, helping in the kitchen, and buying groceries. At first, the girl was afraid to go outside the monastery, but after realizing that the monastery is far from her hometown, in a nearby village, no one knew her. She started going to the market once a week. Molly needs to pick raspberries for the winter in the forest. Take Mother Nancy as a helper and go to the forest. There was a difference. Good, the girl was glad that she had a chance to walk in the woods and breathe a breath of freedom. "I can go by myself." "No. Will you two go together?" "It's not right for a young girl to wander the woods alone," objected the old woman. Walking through the woods, Molly became sad. He remembered his childhood years when he and his grandfather used to go to the forest for mushrooms. Grandfather taught his granddaughter how to distinguish a mushroom from a grape, how to navigate by the sun. The happiest years of her life were behind her. Then there was life with her aunt, constant reproaches, scandals. Then it got really bad. Tired of Nancy's constant muttering, Molly deliberately left the woman behind. In the woods, she navigated like a fish in water, so she was not afraid to get lost. Leaving the house, Malenkova began to collect white berries in a large bough. Hearing behind her back the quiet crunch of dry twigs, smirked. "You can't hide from this Nancy anywhere. You were watching the subsoil. I thought she'd gone ahead," Molly thought. "I'm sorry." The girl heard a hoarse, male voice behind her back and turned pale with fear. "You just do not be frightened." "I did not mean any harm," turned around Molly and saw a young man. To put it mildly, his appearance was not very good. He looked infirm and sickly. "Don't be afraid," said the guy's lips in front of her ears. "Perhaps you have a sip of water." "Yes," said Molly, holding out a small flask of cold medieval water. "Are you lost?" The stranger greedily pounced on the water, taking several large yearlings. I stopped. "I'm sorry, I almost drank your entire supply. Keep the tinfoil. Do you need any help? There's a monastery nearby. I can bring you," the girl offered. I need help, but I can't go out to people," the boy said. "Are you from the convent?" "Yes, I live at the convent," Molly said quietly, realizing that she was dealing with either a psycho or a criminal. "I'll go. There are a lot of us here. I'm enough now." The girl lied. "Are you scared? Don't be." "Help me, please," in desperation asked the boy. "What's your name?" "I'm Alex." Molly introduced herself to the girl. "Molly, be a friend. Help me. You don't have to tell anyone that you saw me well." "I wasn't even thinking of telling anyone," Molly assured her. "I need some clothes, a t-shirt and pants," Alex explained. The guy's clothes were really in bad shape. His shirt and pants were torn to shreds. There was talk of him not spending the first day in the woods. "I'm also really hungry," lowering my head, Alex. "I can bring food a little later," the girl explained. "With men's clothes is more difficult. Tomorrow I'll be at the market. I could run to the store, but I have no money of my own." "No problem with money," the guy rejoiced, handing Molly a few bills. "When it starts to get dark, approach about 5 meters to the left of the gate. I cannot go out. Already threw the groceries over the fence. I'll try to bring clothes tomorrow around the same time." "Where can I find you?" Molly asked. "I'll be waiting for you." "Thank you. You'll learn me a lot," smiled Alex. "I have to go. See you tomorrow." The girl heard that Nancy was looking for her and hurried away. All the way back, she thought about the strange guy. He looked like a decent, normal person. But why was he hiding in the woods, and who was he hiding from? There were only questions in my head that had no answers yet. Having come with Nancy and 2 other persons to the market, Molly waited for the right moment to slip away from her companions. Getting to the clothing store unnoticed, she quickly bought the necessary items. She spent the whole night thinking about the strange stranger in the forest. On the one hand, felt sorry for the guy. Molly, of all people, knew what it was like to run and hide, without any support. On the other hand, Alex was a concern. There's no telling who he really is or who he's hiding from in the woods. After lunch, Molly and Nancy went to pick raspberries again. "In the woods, do not run," gave instructions. "Nancy yesterday ran 2 hours out of the half-empty, came after me to walk. I know some good places." "All right." The girl humbly agreed. She carried clothes, bread and water for Alex in a basket. She was afraid that Nancy would not notice, so she tried to keep away from the observant old woman. Molly slowly trailed behind her, stepping aside the small one where the boy was supposed to be waiting. "Hello," Alex whispered quietly, appearing from behind the thicket. "I was afraid you wouldn't come." "How could I?" "You're waiting, and there's no one to help you in this face but me. Here are some clothes and some food." Molly pulled the boy a small package. "Thank you, you are my guardian angel," rejoiced Alex. "Let me help you pick raspberries. Come on, I'll show you a place where there are a lot of them. In half an hour, we'll have a basket full of them. Let's go." The girl agreed. She felt easy and calm around this stranger. Alex told all the way that in this country of the forest raspberries had already sung, and in the other one they would ripen in about a week. "Alex, who are you hiding from?" the girl asked bluntly. She watched the guy greedily devouring bread and drinking water. Just promise me that you won't be afraid of me, he asked. I promise, Molly assured him. I escaped from the colony. You probably won't believe it, but I was convicted of crimes I didn't commit. What's more, I had nothing to do with it at all. It's a serious crime, and I'd have to sit for a very long time, the boy said seriously. How is that possible? How could the court sentence an innocent man? Molly wondered. How did you escape? Is it really that easy? You are very naive, Alex smiled. It's obvious that you know life very badly. And what's next? Will you sit in the woods all your life? They will find you anyway. I need to prove my innocence, and no one else can do that. First, we need to find one person and make him confess to perjury, the boy explained. How long have you been here? About a week. Explored this forest up and down about 2 kilometers. There's a small swamp from here. The water's more or less clear. You can swim in it, but you can't drink it. It tastes bitter. And on the other side, I built myself a small tent. It is difficult to call this structure reliable, but for the night you can shelter, the guy smiled. Alex stared at the beautiful girl. He could not understand what she was doing in the monastery. Gaining courage, he decided to ask Molly. You and I had a frank conversation. Tell me, how long have you lived here? A few months. I was sheltered once in this monastery. I came there in my slippers and bathrobe. Hungry, scared, barely able to stand on my feet from fatigue. Molly said cheerfully, remembering the bad times in her life. Did someone hurt you? Alex turned pale, clenching his fists. He had a great sympathy for the girl at first sight. Perhaps only those people who are deeply unhappy themselves are capable of it. Persecuted, and needing the support of help and love. He wanted to protect her. Molly looked very defenseless, fragile. Molly thought for a while and then told him all about herself. He listened in silence. It's amazing how one person can have so many problems and troubles all at once. It's a shame I'm on the run now. I would like to see your aunt and the man, to explain what is good and what is bad. But nothing, there will be a holiday on our street. Molly, what are you going to do next? Do you really plan to? Lock you up in a convent for the rest of your life? Yes, I've given it a lot of thought. It is, of course, boring and tedious there. But on the other hand, the monastery has an atmosphere of peace. You don't have to think about tomorrow. You don't have a problem to worry about at all. I hope that someday I will take the tonsure and become a nun. The girl said calmly, Molly, Molly. In the distance came the irritated voice of Mother Nancy. It's not time, the girl said fearfully. God forbid we should be seen here. In the evening, come to the same spot by the fence. I'll drop a bag of groceries. Thanks, Molly. I'll see you tomorrow. Will you come with Hope? Asked the guy. I don't know. If you send for raspberries there again, please come. I will be very much waiting. Asked Alex. You are like a rainbow ray appeared in my gray life. Looking at you makes me want to live. Molly took a basket full of raspberries and quickly went to Nancy. All night she prayed for Alex. For some reason, the girl felt the hard fate of the guy and wanted everything to be well with him. In the morning, she wanted to see Alex again. Molly liked talking to this handsome man. She liked listening to his pleasant voice, seeing his smile. The girl didn't realize yet that she had fallen in love with Alex. We're going for raspberries today, she asked Nancy. No, we've already picked enough. We've got enough for the whole winter. Today, we're having a general cleaning, said the woman, Molly sullenly. She didn't think she'd be so upset about not seeing her boyfriend again. Her heart ached for him because he would be waiting. Sitting alone in the woods, hungry and without water, the girl went back to her cell and began to think feverishly about how to get out of the monastery unnoticed, to take the boys some food and say goodbye, to wrap the bread and water in a bundle. Molly crouched by the window of the cell. She didn't know how she would get out of the monastery unnoticed in broad daylight, but she still hoped she would succeed. At 12 o'clock, the girl heard the noisy clanking of a heavy gate. A large truck drove into the courtyard up to the top, loaded with metal beds, hiding a bundle. Molly went out into the yard. Why are you trying to get underfoot? Nancy asked in a displeased tone, instructing the workers where to bring the furniture in, go to the kitchen and help. Molly said nothing to the old woman. Bypassing the truck carefully, she found herself at the open gate. She doesn't know what she's doing. She ran into the woods. Alex was sitting next to Olenek on the very spot where they parted yesterday. Molly. The guy smiled, handing the girl a handful of white raspberries. Take it, I picked the biggest berries especially for you. I was afraid you wouldn't come anymore. I came to say goodbye, Molly said quietly. Here, take some bread and water. Molly, come with me. I realize that I am in an unenviable position, but I promise to do everything I can to get out of this situation as soon as possible. You'll never regret trusting me. Where are we going? To that shack you built for the campground? No, Alex, I can't do that to the abyss. Nancy trusted me, she gave me shelter. And then I'm not going back to the worldly life. It's too troublesome. I'll wait until tomorrow to give you plenty of time to think. If you come, I'd be delighted. And if you don't? I don't know. I'd be sorry to see our relationship end before it's begun. I can't hide in the woods anymore. I wanted to leave yesterday, but I couldn't. I wanted to see you. Molly didn't listen to the boy any further and quickly ran back. She wanted to get to her hiding place. She wanted to hide and hide from all worldly temptations. Abbess Nancy was right. It's too soon for her to take her vows. She's not ready to devote herself fully to the ministry. Gentlemen, Molly was lucky. The truck hadn't left yet, and the gates to the convent were open. Stealthily, moving into her cell, the girl fell on the bed and silently sobbed. Where are you? A furious Nancy entered the cell. What's the matter with you? Why do I have to run around, looking for you all over the grounds? Where have you been? Molly didn't answer anything and remained lying on the bed, hugging her pillow. I realized the situation was getting out of control and rushed to the abbess for help. Nancy silently listened to the woman, and after a little thought, ordered her to leave Molly alone. She would deal with the stroppy girl herself. What's going on with you? Molly. Nancy entered the cell, closing the door tightly behind her. Molly was not surprised to see the abbess. Knew Nancy would be happy to complain about her. Looking into Nancy's bright, kind eyes. Couldn't tell a lie. It seemed to her that this woman could read minds with ease. Could see right through her. I think I'm in love. It has never happened to me before. She whispered softly. I'm a sinner. There's no excuse for me. No, sweet love, it's not a sin. It's the brightest feeling that gives our lives meaning. Wait, who could you be in love with? Nancy wondered, looking intently at Molly. We met him in the village. He works at the market, Molly lied. She realized that the abbess would not accept or approve of the story of a fugitive criminal. Do you want to leave? The woman asked bluntly. I don't know. I'm scared. I can't hold you. And I don't want to. I want you to know that you can always come to me for help. I've gotten used to you over these past few months, and I care about your fate. Anyway, I don't see the point of your staying in our monastery any longer. Will you come and see me as you mean to? I'll give you a small sum from our fund. It will be enough for the first time, and then learn to live on your own, Nancy said calmly. Thank you, Molly smiled and hugged the woman. The girl quickly gathered herself after the abbess left. Her support was the impetus to make an important decision in her life. She really wanted to dedicate her life to serving God. But apparently, desire alone was not enough. A person needs strong arguments to make such a drastic change in their life. To be happy, Molly pronounced Nancy. Blessings, girl. Remember you're going to have a tough time there. Try to learn to cope with difficulties and problems. This is the main condition for surviving in the world. Thank you, Molly said, wiping away the traitorous tears. Left alone, the girl was a little confused, feeling a strange sense of freedom and independence. For 19 years of her life, she was not used to making decisions on her own. First, her aunt did it for her, and then Abbess Nancy. Alex called the girl, approaching the raspberries. Molly, have you made up your mind? The guy smiled, hugging the girl in joy. I'm glad. You did the right thing. Where are we going now? Molly smiled. First, we need to get out of this forest. Although I am very used to it and feel like a forest master, laughed the guy. Let's go. Stretched out her hand the girl. I know the way out. Alex held Molly's hand tightly, as if he was afraid that his happiness would slip away from him as quickly as it appeared. They didn't know what was waiting for them beyond the forest, but they sincerely believed that together they would find it easier and easier to overcome all the hardships of life. "Where are we going?" Molly asked. "We have to stop somewhere. Honestly, I'm scared for you." Every man in uniform was frightened. "I'm scared to imagine being all alone again." "Don't be. It's been a while since I escaped. The manhunt has long since subsided, and I don't think anyone's looking for me in this village. Do you need to rent an apartment? It's better if the landlord doesn't see me. I'll give you the money and tell you what to say. You'll manage without me." Alex smiled. "I'll try," Molly said decisively. Young people were sitting in a cafe, drinking coffee with cakes. They planned their further actions. Molly felt very light. Near Alex, she had the impression that she knew him all her life. The guy seemed reliable and confident. She didn't know what he was in for, but for some reason she trusted every word he said. Having received clear instructions, the girl went in search of accommodation, having chosen a nice apartment on the outskirts of the town in the quiet district. The woman paid the landlady for 2 months and took the keys. "Are you going to live by yourself?" the woman asked. "I don't really care, but I still want to know if we can." Molly lied. "He's finishing his business, and he'll be here soon." "That's what I thought," smiled the landlady. "The main thing is to keep quiet and keep order. The rest is none of my business." "Don't worry, we won't give you any trouble," Molly assured her. After seeing the landlady off, the girl followed Alex. She was a little uncomfortable being alone with a man she didn't know very well. At some point, Molly regretted that she had acted rashly, leaving the monastery into the unknown. But seeing the bright, pure look of the guy calmed down. Once in the closed space, Alex nervously paced around the room, always looking out the window. "You're scared," Molly realized. "Maybe we should move farther away." "It's not that I'm scared, it's just nervous, I guess. You know, it was much more secure in the woods," the guy smiled. "Well, let's not talk about sad things. You rest. And I'll fry potatoes for us, my specialty recipe." "Alex, maybe you can tell me more about yourself. I know absolutely nothing about you." "Okay, let's go to the kitchen and talk about it." "I'm an orphan. I was raised in an orphanage. Who am I and where do I come from?" "I don't know. I was dropped off at the city hospital when I was 3 months old. Just recently, I thought I'd finally gotten lucky. I met someone I thought was pretty good. Alex became my best friend and mentor, gave me a job, a place to live, support, and hope for a bright future. And then he took it all away, taking away the only thing I owned, my freedom. Who is this man?" "Are you talking in riddles?" Molly asked. "I met him by chance at a friend's wedding. That same night, he offered me a great job as a freight forwarder. Alex headed one of the largest trucking firms in the city. My duties included escorting vans over long distances. Who would have thought he'd be capable of such sneakiness?" "You were set up?" Molly guessed. "Yeah, one time they found a whole shipment of guns instead of bricks in one of the trucks. You see, my boss pretended not to know where it came from. Said it was my doing. And he said and the rest of us confirmed that everyone went straight against you. 2 paid witnesses were enough, but the others just kept quiet. Who would want to lose their job? And there was no way to prove your innocence. As you can see, the chief's got his hands full in this town. He's a big, successful businessman, a respected man in town. And what am I? An orphan with nothing to show for it." "Yeah," Molly shook her head. "How are you going to justify yourself? You think your boss will come to his senses and admit it was his doing?" "No, of course not. I made friends with a good man in the zone. We had a lot in common. William was raised in the same orphanage as me. True, he is 15 years older, but still in that place we seemed to be close to each other. We had the same caretakers and the same memories. He's the one who put you on the run?" "Not only did he, but he helped me. In fact, he promised me he'd help me nail my old boss to the wall. William's not the last man in criminal circles, and he doesn't throw words around. How'd he help you if you spent so much time in the woods? Why didn't you run to him?" The girl was surprised. "Unfortunately, things didn't go as we planned. They were waiting for me in one direction, but I had to run in the opposite direction. No one expected that I would be caught so quickly, and the dogs would pick up the trail. I lost my way and ran. Wherever I could see. What now? Molly didn't understand. We can't just sit here indefinitely. Everything's gonna be okay. Alex hastened to reassure her. First, we need to find William. And then we need to find Robert Kolosov. According to the latest information, he disappeared from the city. After all this fuss, he sold everything and left. Like you said, Molly went pale. Robert, why are you surprised? Have you heard anything about him? I have. I suspect my pervert husband and your abuser are the same person. He showed up in our town 2 years ago with a lot of money, started a trucking company right away. That's a twist. Alex whistled. Fate sent you to me. We need to go to William and seriously deal with our common offender. I'm very glad I met you, Molly smiled. At first, I was scared out of my mind. Then I saw your eyes and realized that a man with such a kind gaze couldn't hurt a woman. Thank you. It's nice to know someone believes in you. You know, until I met you, I thought I'd never make it out of the woods alive. 2 days without water. Dirty, with tattered clothes. Where could I go? They were looking for me hard at the time. If I'd gone out to the humans, I'd have been caught. You're my guardian angel. I don't believe we met by chance. Such meetings are never accidental. You were given to me by fate, seriously said the guy. Before I met you, I had nothing to live for. And now I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Of the police? No, I'm scared for you. I don't think I'll survive if I can't help you in time. I thought you said William was your buddy to take care of things. Molly was worried. I hope so. As they say, the Lord willing, we'll take about another month and go to William. I know roughly where to find him, the guy said. Alex decided not to wait that long. About the monitor in the news channels of the newspaper. He realized that there was no special hunt for him. Even photos of himself nowhere to find. It's weird. Maybe they're not looking for me. There's silence everywhere. I said in bewilderment. Is that possible? Molly was surprised. I don't know, but the fact remains. Today we'll probably get ready, and tomorrow we'll go to the big city. It's easier to get lost out there, and I'd like to settle this matter sooner rather than later. I'm tired of running, tired of being startled by every sound and rustle. What do you say? I will always support you. When Alex arrived in town, he was a little confused. The young people decided to take a cab and go straight there. The administrator of the bar smiled politely at Alex Molly, but gave no information about his master. If you need him urgently, you wait. William will stop by later in the evening. The young men took the table at the end of the hall and waited patiently. William did not wait long. Apparently, the receptionist informed the man about the visit of strange guests. Alex is alive, the stocky bald man said, hugging his friend. Who's that with you? William wondered, looking at Molly. Molly is my guardian angel, for whom I would tear anyone. The boy said proudly. I see. Wonderful girl. I approve. William smiled, kissing Molly's hand. The girl felt awkward in the company of a man she didn't know very well. She didn't like William's scrutinizing stare. More recently, after she had spent a few months in a convent, she had learned to be a bit of a judge of people. William did not inspire confidence in her at all. So we're standing in the middle of a bar, and we're on our way to my place. Are you my guests tonight? Not just tonight, said William, heading for the exit. Sash, do we have to stay at his place? Molly asked quietly. Don't be afraid of him, smiled the guy. William is only formidable in appearance, but in general, he is a kind man, trusting the life of Alex. The girl calmed down a little. After all, she trusted him and was not afraid of anything around him. William brought the guests to the country house and said that they could live here for a while. After dinner, Molly went to rest, and Alex decided to talk to a friend. It's like a soap opera. William was surprised. You meet a girl in the woods who turns out to be the wife of your enemy. If I didn't know all the circumstances, I'd think it was a setup. But nothing, as they say, is for the best. We'll take care of your Robert. I don't need a couple days to get my affairs in order. Then I'll take care of you. In the meantime, Molly, you rest up. You can go fishing. There's a river nearby. Thank you, William. I'm glad I got to you safely. To be honest, there was no hope of shining anymore. I didn't think you were alive either. Who'd have thought things would get so twisted and they'd be looking for you right away? Well, it's all over now. I'm off. You guys come by tomorrow at 7 o'clock. It's my anniversary party. William invited me. Maybe we shouldn't go out on the town too much, asked Alex. Don't worry, no one will be looking for you in my place. They don't come to my place, grinned the man. You respect me, and you stole yours. Maybe a little. Molly liked the temporary shelter. There was silence all around. The house was located a few kilometers from the nearest village, away from prying eyes. It was quiet and cozy. Tomorrow we're going to Williams for the anniversary. I don't know what to get him. I think he has everything. And we don't have much money. Alex was thinking, maybe we shouldn't go, it's not close. And you better not show your face in the city, Molly warned. William asked that we respect his car tomorrow will send for us, explained the guy. The next day, the young people went into town, picking out a gift at an antique shop. They drove to the bar. Guests had already gathered, filling almost all the space in the hall. The birthday boy sat in the center of the table, happily accepting the congratulations of friends. Thank you for coming. William approached Alex with Molly. By the way, a man should be arriving soon who can help us get in touch with Robert. He has a lot of influence over that man. Are you seriously hoping that Alex will plead guilty and go to jail instead of me? Alex was surprised. No, of course, it's impossible. But he is quite capable of shifting the blame to someone else. Anyway, let's wait for my buddy and talk about it. William left, but soon returned with a frightened, pale face. Alex immediately realized that something serious had happened. What asked anxiously? I don't know exactly, but something I don't like very much. Those two types at the bar try to go out through the kitchen into the yard. Molly, let her stay here for now. I guess I was wrong to invite you for an ear, William whispered. Alex shifted his gaze to the steamy counter and realized that William was right. The two men seemed to be chatting casually behind the bar, but it was obvious to the naked eye that they were unusual owl regulars. Do not be afraid of anything, whispered Alex, frightened Molly, and kissed the girl, went on cotton legs towards the kitchen. The guests were having fun, not paying any attention to the people around them. Only William and Molly froze, watching Alex. The guy didn't have time to reach the kitchen. Several people rushed to him from all sides. The guy was deftly laid on the floor by the snap of handcuffs on his wrists. Alex, screamed Molly desperately. Let him go. Don't touch him. Hush, whispered William. Or do you want to go with him? We won't help Alex now. We'll only hurt him. Molly covered her face with her hands and sobbed. The thing she feared most had happened. She had lost him, and this time it would be for a long time. How could it be? Why? Who have we wronged so much? I prayed for him day and night and whispered for him. Molly girl, calm down. Come with me now. You should be alone for a while to think and come to your senses. Tears Alex will not help, William said calmly, taking the girl to the back rooms. The man escorted Molly into the kitchen, nodding for her to come to them. Yes, William. What can I do for you? Asked the ruddy-faced woman with the good-natured face. Jenna, take care of my guests. Please calm the girl down and make sure she doesn't go anywhere. Basically, you take charge of her with your head. Ordered by a man. Okay, don't worry. I will anticipate, assured Jenna. After the owner had left, the cook locked the door to the street, just in case. The woman knew her master's temper, and if the girl, God forbid, ran away, she'd be in trouble. Who are you? What happened in there? Jenna nodded at the hall, realizing that the girl had no intention of making conversation. She took out a bottle of wine from the nightstand. Drink. Molly ordered Molly that French wine helps better than any sedative. Molly unexpectedly took in her hands a glass with dark cherry liquid and drank it in a gulp. Good girl, good for you, praised Jenna, filling the glass again. Now calm down and tell me everything. It's a long story, Molly said sadly. It's okay. We're in no hurry. They'll be out till morning anyway. It'll make it easier for your daughter to talk. Molly told the nice woman everything. Jenna was right and did feel better for a little while, but only for a moment, realizing that Alex was gone. The girl next to her cried again. That's quite a story. Poor girl. Who would have guessed that you would be in so much trouble? Jenna shook her head. What's next? What are you going to do? I don't know anything at all, said Molly. All hope is in William. Take my advice, honey, you can't trust anyone, especially not these people, the cook whispered, nodding toward the hall where the party was in full swing. Remember, after all, if your own aunt sold you what you want from strangers, thank you. You remembered you threw Molly out with your nose. Stop whining. You don't have to show anyone your weakness. There are very few people who are genuinely willing to feel sorry for you. I get it, I'm sure, Molly said. Jenna took a piece of paper and a pencil. She quickly wrote her phone number and slipped it into her pocket. Just in case, just in case. William entered the kitchen, assessing the situation, winked cheerfully at the women. Calm down. Good. There's a man who was supposed to deal with his fiancée. You'll meet him. Yes, of course, Molly perked up. William led the girl into the office, where a gray-haired, intelligent man was waiting for them, nodding to the owner to leave them alone. Saying hello to Molly. My name is Victor. You're Robert's wife. The man smirked. But as a spouse. Yes, we're married, but that's about it. I had to run away from my husband right after the wedding. Tell me, will you help Alex get Robert to tell the truth? Molly asked the naive girl with hope. Victor laughed. How can I force such a powerful man to do anything against his will? But with your help, we can manipulate Robert. Don't you agree, Molly? What should I do? Molly turned pale. I'm not going back to my husband. That's out of the question. Let you first calm down a little, and tomorrow we will talk in a calm atmosphere, said Victor. Okay, agreed the girl. Molly was left alone in the office and was at a complete loss. She already realized that no one was in a hurry to rescue Alex. Everyone was busy doing their own thing, having fun, dancing quietly, yelling songs. None of those present cared about her grief. How was the conversation? William came into the study. We rescheduled it for tomorrow, the girl explained. Only we haven't agreed where we will meet, where I will look for this Victor. You won't have to look for him. He'll come himself. He'll stay with me for a while. William said in a tone that didn't tolerate objections. No, it's inconvenient. I'll get a little room. I'll be more comfortable. Molly, what room? We need to get the jar out now. We could need you at any moment. You're suggesting we run all over town looking for you. You don't think I'd do anything wrong, do you? I got a wife and a son at home. By the way, we'll tell them you're the new governess. I just fired the last one the other day. Okay, Molly agreed. A little calmed down, she wanted to trust this man because he spoke well of him. Alex considered him a best friend, almost a brother. But something told her that her gut told her that William was not at all what he wanted to seem. Molly was uncomfortable in someone else's house. William's wife, Julia, squinted at her. The woman must have thought that the new governess was her husband's mistress. He arrived with his wife around 5 o'clock, assigned one of the best rooms, and later announced that he had found a wonderful governess for his son. Julia remained silent. She didn't dare to contradict her husband. Good morning, greeted William, coming into the girl's room. How do you like the new place? Everything is fine. If something is wrong, say thank you to me right away. It's great. William, any word on Alex? Is there any way to get him some groceries and clothes? Molly asked. Don't worry about it. The guys have already done everything. Is your Alex like in a sanatorium? Loudly laughed the man. Victor is coming today. I advise you to listen to him in everything. Alex is the only one who can help. Got it. Yes, I'm ready to help him, the girl said. She really wanted it to be over quickly. Most of all, she dreamed that Alex would be acquitted and released. After all, without him, life was freezing, lost its colors. Could you please specify what my duties are? Your wife doesn't communicate with me, and your son is rude and avoidant, Molly complained. It seems strange that the governess does not leave the room and does not deal with the child. I'm so sick of her jealousy. The man got angry and really cannot and say she has a tongue like a broomstick. In a moment, we'll tell everyone and you and Alex. And I'm already being dragged. They suspect I was the mastermind behind his escape. Anyway, just bear with me for a while. I think things will settle down soon." Molly spent half the day in the room. Toward evening, Victor finally arrived. The man was clearly agitated about something. "Hello, Molly. I've been up all night thinking about how to influence your husband," the man said. "Victor, please don't call Robert my husband. Our marriage is more of a misunderstanding, especially since I'm sure he's divorced me already." I asked, "Molly, can you tell me what I need to do?" "As far as I know, you worked at his firm." "Yes, 2 years exactly. Surely you still have friends or buddies there, right?" the man asked. "Well, in general, yes. My coworkers and I were very friendly." "We need to find out some information. Maybe it's classified, and not all the employees are aware of it. We need to get in touch with Robert's confidant. You can do that, and all this information will help to free Alex?" The girl was surprised. "Yes, but you have to blackmail him with something. Robert is not the kind of man who will make concessions," Victor explained. "I'll do everything, at least I'll try. We had a good relationship with Robert's deputy. I'm sure David is up to date on all of his boss's business." "What exactly am I supposed to know in 3 weeks?" "He's shipping a big shipment through his firm. We need to know who the customer is. We need to know exactly when the trucks leave, the names of the drivers. What's the paperwork say they're carrying? Point of arrival, and photocopies of the documents," Victor explained. "Got it. I'll do my best," promised Molly the impossible as well. "You must realize that this is the only way to help Alex." Victor left, leaving Molly in heavy reflection. Once again, she would have to go back to her town. We must be extremely careful not to fall into the clutches of Robert. There's a lot of important information to be gathered. But will David make contact? Would he rat out the chief? That she didn't know. Julia wandered around the house as if unaccustomed. The realization that William had brought a mistress into the house did not give calm breathing. The woman was moved to tears. She felt sorry for herself. She'd been through so much over the years, hadn't she? When was the first time William was locked up? The woman was penniless with a baby in her arms. She was struggling to make ends meet and still find a way to send packages to her husband. Then he was paroled. William changed a lot, became angry and alien. He had a lot of money almost immediately. Julia did not know what her husband was doing and was very afraid that he would be imprisoned again. He did not answer his wife's questions. He only shouted angrily that it was her business to cook shields, not to meddle in her husband's affairs. When she reached despair, the woman decided to leave her husband, who had become a complete stranger and hated her. Having learned about his wife's plans, he threatened her, advised her to sit quietly and do not interfere. Otherwise, he would have to take her to the woods, to teach her to reason. She agrees. Julia heard the conversation coming from the open door of her husband's study and lurked at the door. "Great," William rejoiced. "I knew she would do anything for that sucker. What's next? If she gets the information we need, she'll demand Alexa's release. How do we get out of this? I don't want Molly to get pissed off. And if she tells everything Robert, we will not be well," then worriedly said Victor. "She won't." William smirked. "Denka, okay, woman. She belongs in Turkey in some elite brothel. You'll organize it. You've already thought of everything and calculated everything. Well done, praise." Victor patted his buddy on the shoulder. "Of course I'll organize it. For such a beautiful girl, I also made a lot of money." Julia froze in bewilderment. She realized that she was talking about her son's new governess. The woman felt sorry for the girl. She thought that Molly was her husband's mistress, but the girl turned out to be just a pawn in some cruel game of William. Julia spent the whole night thinking about the new governess. Her husband's obsequious conversation with the assistant kept her in suspense. Until an hour ago, she had sincerely hated Molly. Now she felt very sorry for the young girl. The woman would have gladly told her everything, warned her of the danger, but she was afraid. Julia did not know what Molly's reaction would be. If the governess rushed to her husband for explanations, she would be in trouble. The woman awoke close to noon. Hearing children's laughter in the yard, she looked out the window. Molly was swinging her son on the swing, and he was laughing merrily. William's words to the brothel came to mind. Deciding to put an end to her husband's lawlessness, Julia quickly dressed and went downstairs. Molly Nikolaevna's mom is very nice. We've been practicing since morning, and now we're playing. The boy reported excitedly. Wonderful, smiled Julia. Run inside. We'll be right there with Molly. The child obediently left, and Julia approached the girl. Who are you? She asked without any preamble. I was confused, Molly. A governess. Can I see your documents, diploma, references? Molly lowered her head, not knowing what to say. She didn't know how to lie and pretend at all. Moreover, she had not expected such a conversation. William had assured her that she would have no problems in his house. It seems to me that you have no diploma or special education. I'm right, Julia asked. Yes, whispered the girl. William is helping my fiancé. Alex has big problems, and no one but your husband can solve them. Now that sounds like the truth, said the woman. It seems to me that my husband will not be able to help your husband. Alex will rather, on the contrary, will drag you into his dirty deeds. Why? Molly was surprised. He promised William of those people for whom the word means nothing. They only care about money. Lots of money. Tell me, can I be sure my husband won't find out about our conversation? The woman asked me bluntly. I won't say anything, Molly promised, not understanding anything. Yesterday I witnessed a conversation from which I realized that you must get information about Robert. I'm right. Yes, that's exactly the information that will help. Alex explained to Molly. No, Julia shook her head. No one is going to release your Alex. My husband has other plans for you. After you get what they want, you'll be sent to Turkey. Just don't think it's for a vacation. The woman smiled sadly. How? The girl couldn't believe it. Why would he want to do that? He promised. Molly was silent, remembering Julia's words that William should not take her word for it. What are you going to do? Julia asked. Think it over. And God forbid that William should find out that you know about his nefarious plans. Thank you, Julia. I really appreciate the warning. Don't worry, no one will find out, Molly assured the girl. All day long, she couldn't find a place to be. She was overcome with despair and fear. The last hopes that Alex will be able to justify collapsed. Moreover, the imaginary friend William turned out to be worse than the enemy. After all, you know the enemy by sight, and the friend, masquerading as a decent man, stabs in the back. The most unexpected moment, Molly come into the office called William. As soon as Molly arrived home, really wanted to get in the face of this private person. But pulling herself together, the girl smiled welcomingly and followed him. Victor said you were ready. There is no time to lose. The information should come to us as soon as possible. The man said, puzzled. I'm ready to go, the girl assured him. The only thing is, I hate to ask, but I have almost no money left. Found a problem, laughed the man. Of course, I will give money for your business trip. You can go tomorrow morning. You probably don't understand, do you? I need a lot of money, nonchalantly said the girl. Why? William smirked. I think that Igor will have to be paid well for this kind of information. Why would he tell me everything? There must be some interest. I see. So you're right. I'll give you the necessary amount. In the morning, Molly quietly said goodbye to Julia. She realized she was never coming back to this house and was unlikely to see William's wife again. Good luck to you. Be discreet and careful, the woman whispered. Thank you, thanked Molly. Arriving at the bus station, the girl sat down on a bench. She didn't know what to do next. This town had to go. William was not to be trifled with, and she should not try her luck. At the same time, she thought feverishly about how to help Alex. Seeing a crumpled leaf with Svetlana's phone number, she decided to talk to her. Realizing that she urgently needed someone to consult with, she dialed the number of the good-natured woman. Hello, Jenna. Do you recognize me? Of course I recognize you, Jenna said. I often think of you. I'd like to talk to you, Molly said bluntly without trouble, writing down the address. Half an hour later, Molly was sitting in the cozy kitchen, drinking tea. Yes, it's getting worse by the hour, Jenna said. I always suspected that our William was a short man. Well, to what extent? Are you very lucky to have found out what he's planning? You're right, but I don't know what to do next. I extorted some money out of him. I wanted to hire a good lawyer for Alex. But where do I find one? Well, that's no problem at all. Did you come to the right place? The woman's happy. My son is a lawyer. True, he only recently received his diploma. But I assure you, he's no worse than expensive lawyers. John is too honest and fair. He won't rest until he gets to the truth. Especially through him, you'll be able to communicate with Alex. Maybe he can tell you how to help him. Great, Molly was happy. And your Vanny will agree to take a rather hopeless case. Of course. Where will he go? Jenna winked. I'll call him right away to come over to my place. You stay with me for a couple days. I need to think things over. Molly breathed a sigh of relief. She had hoped that things weren't so bad in this case. Maybe they could find a way out of the situation together. John listened carefully to the girl's story about Alex's misfortunes. What do you think, son? Asked Jenna after a long pause. Nothing encouraging so far. It's all very confusing. Plus, the escape has made things very aggravating, the boy explained. But I'll try to do my best. Do your best, son. You see, these bandits have lost all shame, said the woman. Yes, they have. Do you work for them? How many times have I asked you to leave this bar? John said reproachfully. I work in the kitchen. What difference does it make who Jenna objected to? William pays well and without delay. And especially now it's not about me. Suit yourself, Molly's boyfriend waved his hand. I will deal with your question tomorrow. As soon as there is news, I will call you. Thank you, thanked the girl. The next day, John came with the first news. The guy managed to see Alex. He asked me to tell you that he loves you very much. The guy smiled. Also asked that you not to worry. How did he cry? Molly is holding up very well. I have no intention of giving up. I had to tell him about William. He should know his enemy by sight, and we've decided to appeal. But in order to do that, we need to find some proof that he's not involved in the crime he was convicted of. John explained. How do we find it? Robert will never admit to anything in his life, Molly said. William asked you to find out about a large trucking shipment. Why would he do that? Why do you think? I think Robert's being set up or robbed. It's a situation that could play into our hands in a way Molly hasn't realized. I think Robert would be interested to know that gangsters are interested in his shipment, and he'll certainly want to know who. Tell me, what kind of man is Robert? You can talk to him. At first glance, he seems like a nice guy. Yes, you can have serious conversations with him about his business. Robert is reasonable, not violent. Often listens to outside opinions. Then I don't understand. Why did you have to run away from him? I imagined him to be a monster, the guy wondered. As a manager and businessman, he is a normal man. But in his personal life, he's not quite normal. Robert is a pervert. I didn't believe the rumors that were going around about him. I had to see for myself, the girl explained. I barely got away from him. Well done. John's come alive, son. What's so great about it? Jenna intervened. Don't scare us. I don't mean that. The kid laughed. Molly, we might find some evidence of his addiction. I don't know. I heard he's been married twice, and I think both spouses are in a psychiatric hospital. That's great. John was happy. As far as I know, he used to live and work in our town. Yeah, he had to sell up and flee the capital after the story that got Alex locked up. Molly, if I managed to get some dirt on Robert, would you be willing to meet him for a talk? Naturally, John asked in my presence. If it's with you, I'm ready. Is there anything I can do to help right now? Yes. We need to talk to his ex-wives. Find them as soon as possible. I'm seeing a classmate of mine right now. He's an investigator. I think he can help us in a few days. Molly and Vanya were on their way to Robert Ailes. They managed to get some compromising information against him. Robert was very protective of his reputation and had to agree to Molly's terms. Are you afraid? Asked John. You don't have a face on you. I'm afraid, honestly, admitted the girl. I have very bad memories of this city. First, I lost my parents here. Then there were years of abuse from my aunt. and then it got worse. Don't be afraid, I won't leave you. Sashka said I'm in charge of you. I was joking. Getting out of the cab, Molly and Vanya went to Robert's office. The secretary was very surprised to see Molly in the company of a young man. Jenka, whispered the girl, what are you doing here? Where have you been? Robert's been looking all over town for you. Even went to the police. What about yourself? Molly nodded at the door. Just got here. I say don't. We want to surprise you. Molly smirked. Robert was sitting at his desk, going through some documentation. The man was obviously puzzled about something and did not immediately see Molly and John. Hello, Robert, Molly said loudly, trying to hide her fear. The man took off his glasses and literally jumped up in his chair. It was visible to the naked eye how he was shaken with anger. John said calmly, "You'd better sit down and don't make any sudden movements." "Who are you?" Robert, Molly's lawyer, bellowed. "My name is John." The guy introduced himself. "What do you want?" The man didn't understand. "If you want to take something from me, you can't. Is our marriage annulled?" "No," said John. "We're having a more serious conversation. Listen to this. You'll find out." John turned on the tape recorder. "For several years of my life, Robert has made my existence a living hell." There was a shaky female voice on the tape. "Turn it off." Robert roared. "Great. Did you recognize one of your wives, Lydia? There's also a recording of a conversation with Katerina." "Turn it on," smiled John, realizing he'd hit the sore spot. "No need for a detached voice," said Robert. "How much do you want?" "We don't need money," said Molly. "Maybe you remember that Alex kid you set up and put behind bars? Then he sold everything and fled to our town." "How do you know about that?" Stunned man. "It doesn't matter. Alex should be released," Molly said decisively. Only now she realized that she was no longer afraid of this low, cowardly man. Earlier he had seemed powerful and omnipotent, but now he looked like a hunted hare. "How am I going to free Alex?" "You should at least think about what you're saying sometimes." Robert tried hard to pretend he didn't know what he was talking about. "Robert, we have something else besides the testimony of your ex-wives. We can be your enemies as well as your friends. I advise you not to be sarcastic, but to use this situation to your advantage," said John. "What are you talking about? What kind of riddles?" The man got nervous. "There are people who are very interested in your firm. They insistently want to know information about the large shipment you are sending in 2 weeks," said Molly. "Moreover, they are ready to pay a lot of money for this information." "Who are these people?" Robert asked fearfully. "Now you realize that we are worth being friends with?" Molly asked. "How do you know that?" The man didn't understand. "Never mind," said John. "Hurry up and think." "Unfortunately, we don't have any time for idle talk." Robert thought feverishly about what he should do. He realized that he should agree to Molly's terms. The man had long suspected that his firm was being hunted, but he'd never been able to find out who. "Okay, you tell me everything. I verify the information and help." Alex agreed. "No, this is not the way to solve cases," said John. "First you help Alex, and then you know the necessary information and the recorder. I advise you not to delay. Time does not stand still. We have no reason to deceive you. But you realize that in any case Alex will not be released for 2 weeks. We understand. When we see that the process is underway, then we'll tell you everything we know," John said. "Good. I'll look into the matter today," the man promised. "Leave your phone number. I will contact you as soon as there is news," said the lawyer. "We will wait," said Molly, rising from the chair. The young men left the office, leaving Robert in thought. Molly was very grateful to John for his help and support. She realized that she would hardly have influenced Robert on her own. "What do you think? He won't cheat us?" Molly asked the lawyer. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't. There's supposed to be a new development in Alexandra's case. I'm his lawyer, and I'll be the first to know. "What am I supposed to do now?" Molly asked. "You need to lay low somewhere. You don't want to go to my mother's. It's not safe. You should stay here. We'll get an apartment for you for a couple weeks. Then we'll see. I think a lot of things will be worked out in that time. Call William, tell him everything's going according to plan. We need to put his guard down. Just passed. Don't go anywhere until I get there. Time dragged on for an agonizingly long time for Molly. The girl sat in the rented apartment, waiting for news from John. The guy called her every day, telling her how things were going. Each time she waited for long-awaited news from the lawyer. Now Molly was between two fires. She was afraid of William's revenge. After all, such people do not forgive betrayal. What do you want? The man didn't understand. If you want to take something from me, you can't. Is our marriage annulled? No, said John. We're having a more serious conversation. Listen to this. You'll find out. John turned on the tape recorder. For several years of my life, Robert has made my existence a living hell. There was a shaky female voice on the tape. Turn it off. Robert roared. Great. Did you recognize one of your wives, Lucy? There's also a recording of a conversation with Katerina. Turn it on, smiled John, realizing he'd hit the sore spot. No need for a detached voice, said Robert. How much do you want? We don't need money, said Molly. Maybe you remember that Alex kid you set up and put behind bars? Then he sold everything and fled to our town. How do you know about that? Stunned man. It doesn't matter. Alex to be released, Molly said decisively. Only now she realized that she was no longer afraid of this low, cowardly man. Earlier he had seemed powerful and omnipotent, but now he looked like a hunted hare. How am I going to free Alex? You should at least think about what you're saying sometimes. Robert tried hard to pretend he didn't know what he was talking about. Robert, we have something else besides the testimony of your ex-wives. We can be your enemies as well as your friends. I advise you not to be sarcastic, but to use this situation to your advantage, said John. What are you talking about? What kind of riddles? The man got nervous. There are people who are very interested in your firm. They insistently want to know information about the large shipment you are sending in 2 weeks, said Molly. Moreover, they are ready to pay a lot of money for this information. Who are these people? Robert asked fearfully. Now you realize that we are worth being friends with, Molly asked. How do you know that? The man didn't understand. Never mind, said John. Hurry up and think. Unfortunately, we don't have any time for idle talk. Robert thought feverishly about what he should do. He realized that he should agree to Molly's terms. The man had long suspected that his firm was being hunted, but he'd never been able to find out who. Okay, you tell me everything. I verify the information and help. Alex agreed. No, this is not the way to solve cases, said John. First you help Alex, and then you know the necessary information and the recorder. I advise you not to delay. Time does not stand still. We have no reason to deceive you. But you realize that in any case, Alex will not be released for 2 weeks. We understand. When we see that the process is underway, then we'll tell you everything we know, John said. Good. I'll look into the matter today, the man promised. Leave your phone number. I will contact you as soon as there is news, said the lawyer. We will wait, said Molly, rising from the chair. The young men left the office, leaving Robert in thought. Molly was very grateful to John for his help and support. She realized that she would hardly have influenced Robert on her own. What do you think? He won't cheat us. Molly asked the lawyer. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't. There's supposed to be a new development in Alexandra's case. I'm his lawyer, and I'll be the first to know. What am I supposed to do now? Molly asked. You need to lay low somewhere. You don't want to go to my mother's. It's not safe. You should stay here. We'll get an apartment for you for a couple weeks. Then we'll see. I think a lot of things will be worked out in that time. Call William. Tell him everything's going according to plan. We need to put his guard down. Just passed. Don't go anywhere until I get there. Time dragged on for an agonizingly long time for Molly. The girl sat in the rented apartment, waiting for news from John. The guy called her every day, telling her how things were going. Each time she waited for long-awaited news from the lawyer. Now Molly was between two fires. She was afraid of William's revenge. After all, such people do not forgive betrayal. I'm going to my place, John said into the phone. Robert called yesterday. After his call, I checked the information. Anyway, the ice had broken. Molly rejoiced at the good news and prayed to God that everything would go well. The girl couldn't sit still. Walked around the apartment here and there. Looking out the window, seeing in the courtyard of the lawyer's car, rushed to open the door. "Well?" impatiently asked the girl, seeing John on the doorstep. "Everything is fine." The resumption of proceedings on newly discovered circumstances. The guy smiled. Robert kept his word. "Pack up, he's waiting for us." "I still don't understand how he did it." "And I think he admitted his involvement in the crime," the girl pondered. "No, of course, I won't go into details. But I can say with certainty that the testimony and evidence that provided your ex-husband is enough to justify Alex. Now there's another problem." "What is it?" Molly asked fearfully. "William. I have some thoughts. I need to talk to Robert. I think he'll like my proposal. That way, we can neutralize William." Robert was waiting in Molly's office with his lawyer. When he saw the young men, he was overjoyed. So they were not deceived. Robert sighed with relief. "I explained at the first meeting that we are serious people and are more your friends than your enemies," smiled John. "I'm going to have a very serious conversation with you." "Yes?" the man said, inviting those present to sit down. "Tell me, you don't hold a grudge against Molly, do you?" the boy asked bluntly. "Logically speaking, she's saving your firm." "No, I don't." The man glanced at Molly and immediately shifted his gaze. "You see, I'm in grave danger right now. You must help her avoid the retribution of these people." "Yes, of course. I will do everything in my power," the man assured. "Now we will tell you who is interested in your cargo. By the way, if it's no secret that you were going to bring anything illegal, I'm just asking out of curiosity. I was supposed to be moving a very large shipment of valuable metals. The deal was completely classified. I still can't figure out who could have sold us out. Frankly, if it wasn't for you, a lot of innocent people would have died. And my firm and my reputation would have been completely ruined, and I would have given up the deal until the traitor was identified. I don't do that kind of business." "And how many people knew about the deal?" John asked. "I am my assistant and the customer. In my opinion, the circle of suspects has been narrowed down to one." The lawyer smirked. "Yes, but I need to check him out somehow. I've always trusted Igor, and I still doubt his guilt. Here I propose to check your assistant, and at the same time to punish those people who wanted to take possession of your cargo." "How to do it?" Robert asked quietly. "You have good connections in the police, don't you?" "Well, yes. I'm going to tell you the plan I've come up with. If you agree, we will punish your enemies and get rid of them at the same time, thus helping Molly to avoid the vengeance of these people," said the boy. "Yes, I agree with certainty," said Robert. "Well, I like your plan, don't you?" "It's very clever." "I can feel it right away," said Robert. "I certainly never would have guessed that William was playing a double game. A low, sneaky man. We've known each other for years. I've done a lot for him in my time. And as it turns out, I've been making an enemy. So here's the deal. You're announcing to your assistant today that you're changing the transportation route. And I'm asking my comrade to help us in exposing the criminal group," said John. "What am I supposed to do?" Molly asked. "You will now call William. Tell him that you got all the necessary information. But there are still some details to be clarified. We need to know if you will be informed about the change of route," the lawyer explained. An hour later, Molly and John were sitting in a cozy cafe. Molly looked sad. I remembered how they had recently been in a similar place with Alex, eating ice cream, making plans for the future. At the time, none of them could have guessed that the man who was the only one who could help the boy would turn out to be a despicable traitor. Molly thought about how lucky she was to have met such a wonderful man as John. If not for him, there was no telling how her fate would have turned out. "John, I'm very grateful for your help. Tell me, you have a personal score to settle with William. Vidyet is taking a big risk by helping me and Alex. William doesn't forgive such behavior. You know, I was going to leave this conversation for later. But if you brought it up, I'll tell you now, Molly, I like you very much. Just don't say anything." "First, after hearing me out," John said, seeing the protest in the girl's eyes. "Anyway, we'll get Alex out, but think about whether you need him." I realize that you met him at a difficult time in your life. You probably thought it was love, but it's more likely that you felt the protection and strength that came from Alex. John, there's no need to go on. This is an empty conversation. What can it give you? The lawyer got angry. He has absolutely nothing. No home, no family, no education. It's just him and that's it. What's waiting for you next to Alex? A miserable, miserable existence. You'll get bored of that kind of life very quickly. I, unlike him, can give you everything you deserve. I'm just at the beginning of my career. It won't be long before I'm on my feet, a successful man. Let's not ruin our friendship and never revisit this conversation again. I love Alex, and I don't care if he has something or not. The only thing I want is to always be by his side. Molly said confidently. Well, I wish you hadn't heard me, the boy frowned. You're not going to help us anymore. The girl asked bluntly. I'll finish what I started. I'm a professional, and I don't confuse personal relationships with work. The boy was silent and turned away from the window. It was obvious that his mood had soured, and his enthusiasm had diminished. Molly was afraid that John would not keep his word and would start to put sticks in the wheels on purpose. After all, at the moment their fate with Alex was in the hands of this man. But she had to trust the lawyer because she couldn't do anything without his help. No drive-through, take you home. Or will you sit in the cafe for a while? Asked John. Take me, if it's not too much trouble. I don't want to stay here alone. Near the entrance, John said goodbye to the girl, gave instructions, and promised that he would be in touch. If everything goes according to our plan, William will be arrested in a week. You will be able to live in peace, waiting for Alexa's release. The boy said sadly, John, thank you. We would never have gotten out of this without your help. Molly thanked him sincerely. Are you afraid I've figured it out in days? John, don't think about it. I've never been a mean person. Molly calmed down a bit. After this conversation, John appeared to be a man of honesty and fairness. She hoped that her intuition would not fail her and everything would be fine. The girl called William in the morning and told him that she had learned a lot of things. There were still some details to be clarified. The plan was for her to call him back in the evening. Until then, Robert would inform his assistant about the change of route. And if he was the traitor, William would know about the change. William, I'm sorry to bother you, the girl said into the receiver. I wanted to ask about Alex if there is any news. How good of you to call. I received information that the transportation route has been changed. Do you know anything about it? Quickly asked William. The man was visibly nervous, almost shouting into the phone. I don't know anything yet. Masterfully lied Molly, don't worry. I'll meet my man in the morning and find out everything. I'm expecting the call right away. William bellowed, hanging up the phone. Molly hung up the phone and smirked. John was right. Apparently, the trader at Robert's firm is his assistant, David. He knows all the routes, and William didn't have that information. That's pretty weird. The girl was in a state of shock. During this short period of time, she realized that close friends are the most betrayed, the people we trust the most. The girl decided to call Robert to share her thoughts. He knew his employees better than she did. Maybe the traitor was someone else after all. Someone who didn't have access to all the information. Especially if David was working for William, he wouldn't have had to send Molly here. Cell phone rings. Hello. Don't get distracted, the girl asked, dialing Robert's number. No, I'm all worked up. Is something wrong? The man asked quickly. I've been thinking. Something's not right with me. What kind of things? Robert asked. William knows about the change of route. He's very excited and wants the information as soon as possible. Tell me, does Igor know the new route? Yes, he made it up himself. I gave him the maps on purpose to keep him informed. David here knows the layout of the new route, but William doesn't. How is that possible? Molly asked. I see what you mean. Then who? It was a secret shipment. No one knew about it except me and my assistant. Robert was confused. Thank you, Molly, for sharing your thoughts. I'm gonna call John. I wonder what he'll say about it. Robert immediately dialed the lawyer. John also realized that it was unlikely that Igor had done this. Robert, how long ago did you check the office for a bug? John asked. I never did. I didn't need to. The man was confused. That's not good. Get on it tomorrow morning. Something tells me you're being listened to. How else do you explain William knowing about your secret transportation, but not knowing the details? Thank you. I'll call you as soon as I hear anything, Robert promised. John was right. The very next day, a wire was found in Robert's office. The man went outside to call his lawyer. The guy said to leave it alone and not to spread the word to the staff about the find. That evening, Molly called William. I found out everything. I got a new itinerary. That's great. When are you coming? Asked the man. I'll email the paperwork. I'll be there a little later. I want to visit my aunt in a few days. The girl lied. Okay, I'll be waiting. It was time for the special operation. Molly was very worried. She feared that William would not be caught red-handed. If that happened, she wouldn't be able to get away. William is not Robert, and you can't escape him that easily. Don't be afraid of anything. Trying to reassure John. Just sit tight and wait for my call. I thought, what if William won't do it on his own? No way. He's too greedy to trust anyone with such a big job. Greed will get him killed. Time literally stopped for Molly. Tired of waiting for the cherished call from John, the girl began to pray for time. Everything should have ended long ago, but the phone was stubbornly silent. Unable to stand it, Molly decided to call herself. Yes, John said calmly. Did something go wrong? Molly asked. Why aren't you calling? I'm fine. I forgot to call. William's been arrested, and with him his whole company. The guy said without emotion. I'm sorry, I'm really tired. If there's any news about Alex, I'll call you right away. Molly hung up the phone and sighed with relief. It's okay. William had been arrested. But for some reason she felt very uneasy. John had changed beyond recognition. She knew he resented her for refusing him. But she had never promised him anything. She loves Alex and is not going to betray her love by exchanging it for material goods. Molly spent a few days all alone. She had nowhere to go, and she did not want to communicate with anyone. The girl patiently waited for any news and set him free. Robert, we're being honest here. I know who the real culprit is. So an innocent man gets hurt again. The girl asked me bluntly, but how can I tell you? There's a man who owes me a very large sum of money. He will never be able to pay me back. I suggested that he redeem his debt in this way. Anyway, it's easier for him to do a few years than to live in constant fear. I didn't press him, and he gladly accepted my offer. Well, that's probably the best option. Thanks anyway. You don't hold a grudge against John. He's lost his head in love, and I understand him very well. I mean, I was once willing to do anything stupid for you. It's a pity my former vices prevented me from knowing happiness with you. You're a very beautiful woman. Frankly, I don't envy Alex. The guy's lucky in some ways. Molly went outside and decided to walk to her rented apartment. She was overwhelmed with double feelings and thoughts. She didn't know if Robert would keep his word or betray her like everyone else she had encountered lately. Robert was her last hope. Was there no one else to help? Everyone had turned their backs on them, leaving them alone with their problems. Molly put the cup of coffee on the table and walked to the window. The first snow had fallen today. The girl was glad to see large-shaped snowflakes that did not fall down, beautifully covering the ground with a white blanket. Hearing the phone ringing, she ran to her room. Only Robert could call her. John had never made himself known. No one else knew her number. Hello, Robert, the girl said cheerfully. Any news, how do you say? Yes and no. Anyway, this is not a telephone conversation. You tell me your address. I'll stop by for a couple minutes. Why don't I go to the office? Molly was worried. Although Robert gave the impression of an adequate person, but still the girl knew him from the other side. That's why I was afraid. And I certainly didn't want to be alone with him. Don't be afraid, Robert said. I won't even go into the apartment if you want me to. Just give me the address. Molly dictated the address and went to the kitchen to put the kettle on. The doorbell rang just 10 minutes later. Hi, Robert smiled. What's my surprise? I don't understand, Molly. Come into the kitchen. It's very stuffy in here. I made tea. Wait, you and your tea, laughed the man. Look over here. Molly looked out into the corridor and froze, not believing her own eyes. Alex was standing near the door against the wall. The guy clutched a large bouquet of scarlet roses in his hands and smiled silently. Sashka, Molly shouted, throwing herself on the neck of her favorite person. Why didn't you warn me? I would have cooked dinner. We wanted to make a surprise, especially if we had everything with us. Robert nodded at the weighty bag of groceries. Molly, Alex, and Robert sat at the table. The girl couldn't look at the guy. She still couldn't believe her happiness. Robert wanted to leave right away, but Molly insisted that he stay for lunch. I never thought I'd be sitting at the same table with you, Alex said, looking at Robert. It's not for nothing they say that sometimes friends become enemies and enemies become friends. Don't be afraid of enemies, be afraid of friends philosophically, said Robert. I am guilty before you, before Molly. I didn't think Molly would be so helpful either. By the way, your lawyer didn't go anywhere. He just changed his phone number. That's what a shallow person does. He seemed very serious and fair at first. God help him, the judge said. Molly. Alex is free. That's the main thing. What are you going to do next? Robert asked. To live, smiled Molly. That's right. I can offer you a job. Would you like to go? Asked Robert. No, said Alex firmly. We'll start our lives all over again, from scratch, so to speak. We'll probably go somewhere else. As you asked Molly, were you ready to go anywhere? Seriously, said the girl. Well, I approve of your choice. Robert opened the briefcase, took out a neatly folded package and placed it on the table. What is it? It's for a new life. The man smiled. I sincerely wish you happiness. You deserve it. Robert said goodbye to the young people and left for work. Molly unwrapped the roll-up and whistled in surprise. Such a sum of money she had never seen. Oh, Alex was surprised. It's paid off in full. Any idea? The guy smiled. What? Remember that forest where we met? Asked Alex. Of course, I have the happiest memories with this place. Maybe you noticed at the entrance from the forest behind the monastery stands a big term. I remember a 2-story carved house, very beautiful. There was an ad for sale at the gate. I thought it was unlikely anyone would want to buy a palace like that in the middle of nowhere. Wait, where are you going with this? Molly smiled. Let's buy this house. It's so beautiful. It's quiet. And the air? I'll finally get to do what I love to do. I'll open a woodcarving shop. Alex's eyes sparkled, like a little kid who finally got what he's been dreaming of all his life. Super. I think there is no better place to live, said the happy girl. That's great. So tomorrow morning we go to a new life, said the guy, hugging Molly. Molly felt peace and bliss for the first time in her life. She felt warm and cozy around this manly man. She knew he would never betray her. She believed that they had a happy future ahead of them and a peaceful life, away from the hustle and bustle, intrigue and betrayal.